If you were in college today, what would you study?
With college today at my age,
No, like if
college
you were to
young,
go back.
I had to go back. God, um, probably study history. I really like history, and when I was growing up, that's not something you could study. Like in my family, you were an engineer or a scientist. That was it. That was the scope of what was. Oh, you could be a doctor for sure. Right. That was number one.
Right.
And maybe you could be a lawyer, but like history or economics or something like that, didn't count. So it's a shame. I think I would have enjoyed studying history.
So no engineering, no finance, none of that.
I mean, I never used engineering. I mean, engineering was fun to study, but I wasn't going to be an engineer. Right? It's not who I am. It's not what I am. Um, Finance was fun. I'm glad I studied finance. I really enjoyed finance. I've made money because I studied finance. Money's good. Um, but is that my passion? No, no. Maybe economics, but the way they teach economics almost everywhere is mostly a waste of time. So I think generally, if you want to study economics, maybe there's one or two schools in the world where you'll get a good education. Otherwise, study by yourself, learn it yourself, which is mostly how I've done it.
Would you still go to an institution if you like today to learn?
I mean, like if I was going to study history, no, because I don't think anywhere in the world are they teaching history properly. The humanities are so corrupt. Social sciences are so corrupt now that I can't imagine there's a place where you can actually study it and actually get. I mean, maybe they are. I'm maybe exaggerating, but it's a limited choice. Like most places, it's crap, and it's politically motivated, and it's biased, and it's storytelling that is not related to reality. And it's not the kind of history I would want to study. I mean, I'm interested in big stories and in like big scale history, and most of history today is minutia, right? They study little phenomena, and they don't want to. They don't want the causal relationship between where did this happen and this happened after that. They just want to study this little phenomena. Um, but if I found a good school, yeah, I'm not against institutions. It's just that I think that uh, I think that American universities, in particular, some European universities, have just basically been corrupted by a lot of kind of the leftist ideology in the last 20, 30 years, more so than in the past, and lost their objectivity.
So we're in a college campus, and a lot of people are trying to find their passions, what they want to do with their lives. And, something I learned from Keith is that college is a place to figure out what you want to do. So you should do everything. So in my case, I've done, I've taken all sorts of classes. I've done things I would normally do, like stand-up comedy, just to figure out what are the things I'm really good at that I enjoy. So how can students, either in high school, college, or even after college, like find that thing? Like in your case, you knew engineering wasn't that thing. So how would you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think for each one of us, it's going to be a little different. I don't think there's one path. The key is to go to college with an open mind, not to go in unless you really know it. Like some people know. I mean, you guys said you read the Fountainhead, right? How do Uck knows he wants to be an architect from day one? Like as soon as he's conscious almost, he knows he wants to be an architect. And some people are like that. I know people who grew up and they know they want to be a doctor. They want to be this. Fine. Most of us don't know. Most of us are unsure. And if that's the situation, then you have to go in with an open mind to a few things. One is that you're searching, you're going to look. So your strategy, go to college and try a bunch of different things out. But even then, your experience of a particular topic in college is not going to be your experience of that topic in the real world. It's going to be completely different.
Right.
So even the college experience is limited in how much it'll really teach you about what you want to do with your life and what you. But the second thing to keep in mind is there's no one career necessarily that you're going to have to choose when you're 18 or 21 or 22 or whatever, and that's it. You're fixed for life. You guys have a good chance of living well beyond 100. I mean, I say that without exaggeration. I think that the science of medicine is such that your generation should live to be 100, 120 pretty easily. Over that time, you should be able to have multiple careers. You should be able to change your interests and do, and I'm talking about 100, 120 healthy, years. So you should be able to think about multiple careers. So if you choose wrong on that first career, no big deal. don't make a big deal out of it. You can switch. You can go back to school. You can go study somewhere else. You can go pick up a new thing yourself, right? You can do today. You can do a what do you call it? A programming boot camp in 3 months, and you can become a programmer, and you can go be a programmer. You know, the options today available are just amazing. So don't limit yourself. Really search expansively, and search not just in school but after school as well. That is, you know, once you graduate, keep searching. Don't settle. Find something you love doing. That's the key. The key is to love your work. You're going to spend a lot of time working. Most of your time alive, you're going to be working. You better enjoy it.
You know, there's a common sentiment, at least today, that like we're 21, like we need to have a job. We're like by this age we need to have this, right? So we have all these like different stages of life that we're almost planned out for ourselves. In your opinion, what should be like an age period, or maybe that's the wrong idea or the wrong way to think about it, but where people should like not worry about jobs or having a certain stability and just explore and try out everything.
I mean, you should always want to have a job,
Right.
right? You have to feed yourself.
Right.
You shouldn't be living off your parents.
Mm-hmm.
You should be independent. So you should always have a job. But you should also be willing to be flexible in terms of career. Career, I take, is something that you're really dedicated to. You're kind of, it becomes your central purpose. It's where you spend most of your time, different than a job, which might be just something you're doing in order to make some money, right? You should always be making money. You should always be feeding yourself and living by your own means. Now, in your college, getting help from parents is not a big deal, but you should always be aiming to become independent. The purpose of adulthood is independence. And then secondary, it's to find that career, find that passionate thing that you love doing, that you really want to spend a significant number of years focusing on and doing. And I don't think there is a timeline. I hate timelines.
Right.
I think your generation has less timelines than my generation, or even before my generation, right? We were like, you have to get married at this age, you have to have kids by this age, you know, and I think Americans today have it a lot more fluid, right? There's very little pressure to get married. There's very little pressure to have kids, and Americans don't have kids, and a lot of young people spend a lot of years in school.
Right.
There's no hurry to get out of school. So I think, yeah, spend the time in school. Don't waste it. Most people waste it. Use it to kind of figure out what you like and what's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Use it to learn. Right? To learn stuff that is interesting to you, that you think will be valuable to your life. And then try to get out there and start a career. And you might like it, you might not, you might, give it some time, because we all hate a job when we first started. But give it some time. And then be willing to shift and switch and pursue whatever, as long as you're making enough money to be able to live. You don't have to be wealthy, particularly when you're young. Then keep switching and looking and exploring until you find the thing that really clicks for you. And it could take decades. I'm on my, 5th career, something like that. So, and I don't think I found what I really wanted to do in life until I was 40. So what? But I enjoyed every stage of it, right? I always was enjoying what I was doing. If I didn't enjoy what I was doing, I would have been out of there doing something else, right? I don't believe in suffering. I don't believe in compromising. I don't believe in doing stuff out of a sense of duty. You do it because you're benefiting from it.
Because you want to.
Well, I mean, want to is too subjective, right? Want to could be very irrational, because you rationally want it because it makes sense for you. Because it makes sense for you at that point in time, and you're enjoying it. So I worry about placing too much on wants, on whims, on emotions.
Mm-hmm.
That you want to be rational about it. You want to be thoughtful about it. You want to really figure it out and know, okay, yeah, this is what's good for me right now. Maybe tomorrow I'll find something else, but right now this is what's good, and I'm committed to it. Right.
I'm curious to know what you were thinking about as a student when you were in our shoes all those years ago. Did you have that clarity that you have today? Maybe less than Definitely less than what you have today.
No, of course, less than what I have today. There's no way you can
Right.
have the clarity, at 20 that you have at 60. You're lacking.
Right.
You're lacking 40 years of experience.
Right.
Experience matters. What was I thinking? God, I can't remember what I was thinking when I was 20. When I was 20 in college, 22, 23, I was thinking about how to pass the exams. They were tough. Where I went to school, they failed students. I don't know if they fail. Here they fail people. In Stanford, they don't. The better the school, the less they fail, which is bizarre. But they failed. You had to work hard to get decent grades.
Right.
It didn't come easy. So I was focused on that. I already had a passion for philosophy and for ideas. So my spare time, I dedicated very much to figuring those out and to studying those. I had a passion for art and aesthetics, which I still have, but it started about the same time. So I spend my time, a lot of the time, enjoying and figuring out and learning about that. So it was a busy time, and it did a lot of stuff. That I look back, had close friends, hung out with a lot of people, so it was a very social time as well. So it was intense. My 20s were pretty intense.
Something you said is that people join a tribe because they don't trust their own minds.
Yeah.
You probably don't like C.S. Lewis, but C.S. Lewis wrote an essay called The Inner Rings, where he basically said that throughout life, there are basically the circles that, because of prestige, because of whatever reason, you try to join them. So in college, it's either, like fraternities or clubs.
Yeah.
After you graduate, like there is this, like maybe being a partner in certain law firms. So like as you grow up, you have this rings that you're almost tempted to join, like to join this tribe.
Yeah.
In college, that's very much a thing, even though, so there seems to be a conflict, a dichotomy per se, that people, like, they'll tell themselves, like, oh, I want to be independent, but at the same time, they're always longing to be part of a tribe.
Well, unfortunately, I think in our culture that we live in today, that is true. I mean, I don't think that's ideal, and I don't think that's right. I don't think it's the way you should live. People seem to want to join tribes. That's true. But I think that's a default because they don't trust their own mind. They don't trust their own judgment. I think the more self-confidence you have, the more self-esteem you have, the more you trust your own mind and you figure out that you can make decisions for yourself, the less inclined you are to join a tribe and to join a group for the sake of joining a group. So I don't know. I mean, again, my experience in undergraduate was very different because it was in Israel a long time ago. And it was actually did it after the army, and there were no fraternities. There's no such thing at that time in Israel, at least. You basically studied. You had friends, so in that sense, you had a social life, but I wouldn't call that tribal. Or you didn't join a group, a particular group. You just had friendships, whether it was people studying the same thing as you or not. Right? It was just people who shared values. So I don't think we're tribal inherently. I think we're tribal default. Tribalism is a default on thinking. Tribalism is a default on rationality. It's a default on being independent. And I think we live in a culture today, particularly in America, but also in much of the West, where we teach kids not to think. We teach kids to feel, to emote, to express their feelings, to tell us what they feel. Thinking is denigrated. Logic is denigrated. Rational thought, reason. Nobody talks about reason in our culture and rationality, but they talk a lot about your feelings and how you feel about things. As a consequence, people reach adulthood not knowing how to deal with the world. The only way to deal with the world is through reason, through rationality. Your feelings don't matter. I mean, they matter to you, obviously, because you're experiencing them. They don't matter to the world. They don't change reality. Reality is what it is, no matter what you feel. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you learn how to deal with that, the sooner you learn how to, in a sense, figure out your emotions, figure out where they come from, and maybe change them because they're often inappropriate. The sooner you become an independent human being. Too much of our culture today, people are not independent thinkers. They're not independent as human beings, and therefore they look for somebody else to tell them what to do. And that's what tribes do, right? Tribes, the essence of a tribe is somebody else telling you what to do, somebody else guiding you because you're too lazy or too afraid or too ignorant to make those decisions for yourself.
Should you follow your heart or follow your mind?
You should always follow your mind. And ultimately, if you do that right, your heart will not contradict your mind. That is, this idea that the heart has to contradict the mind is wrong. The heart emotions are consequences of thinking. Emotions are consequences of conclusions you've come to in the past. There are integrations that you have made, evaluations you have made about certain things. Like, you're little, a dog attacks you or barks at you, and you get really, really afraid. And now every time you see a dog, fear arises, right? You came to a conclusion, dogs are a threat. The emotion then follows, I am going to fear dogs. And you might be an adult, and a dog might bark, and you feel that fear, even though now you know, oh no, it's just a friendly dog that's barking, no big deal. You can undo that emotion by coming to a new conclusion, by understanding it and then reversing it by, psychological work. But so you have to understand that emotions are just automatic responses of our mind to past thoughts and past conclusions we have had. And if you can change them by changing the conclusions, by changing the evaluations, by changing the thinking that you have. And we all know this, right? You fall in love with somebody, you're infatuated with them, your heart, it all about them, and then they lie to you, or they cheat on you, or they do something like that. And now your evaluation of them has changed. And what happens to the emotion? It might lag, it might take a while before you stop liking them or loving them or whatever, but ultimately it will stop, it will go away. Why? Because your evaluation of them changed. You have a friend, you really, really like your friend, you feel really powerfully attracted to this friend, but they screw up and you don't like them anymore. You've come to conclusion, this guy's a bad person. Your emotion will change ultimately as well. And that's, and everybody knows this, and yet somehow we think emotions are primary. Somehow we think emotions are what we should follow. No, you should always follow your rational judgment. Ideally, your rational judgment and your emotions are aligned. And over time, that should be part of the goal in life, is to reach alignment so that you reduce conflict and you reduce contradictions in your own being, right? You don't want a contradiction between your mind and your emotions. You want them to be integrated. So when you fall in love with somebody, you should be able to know why, or you should be able to say, okay, here's what's good about this person. And if you come to the conclusion, no, they were actually a horrible person, why do I love them? Then that's a conflict. That's a contradiction that you need to resolve. One, either your emotion is leading you in the wrong direction, or your conclusion about this person are wrong. One of them are wrong, and you need to figure out which one it is. Ideally, you fall in love with somebody who's already good, and you can cognitively, rationally identify what is good about them that is ultimately led you to fall in love with them.
When you fell in love, did you think rationally or emotionally?
Well, it's first emotional, right? So the emotion is automatic, and it's fast and it's quick. And then you have to evaluate it. You give it time, and you get to know the person, and you do what it takes to figure out, okay, does this make sense, right? So sometimes over time you discover, not so much, right? Maybe there was an infatuation, maybe it was love, but really she doesn't deserve it, or whatever, right? And sometimes it's, it turns out to be the real thing, and that is that they share enough of your values, they complete you in a certain way that justifies this emotion of love, and then it's great, because then it's completely integrated.
Do you think all emotion eventually should lead to rationality when making the ultimate decision?
Well, I don't think emotion leads to rationality. I think ultimately what you want is
Compliment?
that they complement each other, that they don't contradict. They're not, you don't want to live a life where your emotions are pulling you one direction and your mind is pulling you in another direction. Something's screwed up if that happens. And I think most people are like that, right? 99% of people out there have a conflict constantly between their emotions and their reason. And they need therapy. I mean, that's what therapy should do. Therapy should help you align you're thinking with your emotions, so you don't feel like that. So, if you think this job is good for you, you come to that conclusion rationally, but you're not passionate about it. You don't like it. There could be a number of things. You could be making a mistake rationally. That is, your evaluation could be wrong. So the fact that you think you're using your mind to reach a certain conclusion doesn't mean you're doing it right. We could do math and we can make mistakes, right? And sometimes we make more of the mistakes when we deal with tricky issues. We sometimes evade. We ignore certain facts because they might cause us to feel bad. So we disregard whole portions of reality. And what you need to learn is to accept reality, accept the conclusions of your mind, and hope and work on getting your emotions aligned with it, so that they're both aligned, they're not in conflict.
Sure.
But it's work. It doesn't, nothing in life
Right.
just happens. We're not a being biologically that can just rely on instinct or just stuff happens. We have to work to achieve anything.
What has been a mistake that you regret? You mentioned we make mistakes along the way, right?
Oh God. There are lots of mistakes. I mean, the people that I have trusted and thought were good people that turn out to be bad people and turn out to stab you in the back. A lot of mistakes with a lot of people. It's the easiest thing to make mistakes about. People are difficult to read, and people change. That's the other thing. They can change, right? They can change their minds. They can change their ethics. They can change how they behave. But it's also, they can also act. A lot of people are good actors. They can put on a facade for you to impress you and for you to think they're one thing when they're really something else. So I'd say my biggest mistakes are evaluating people wrongly. That is, thinking they're better than they are, usually.
Has that made you less trustworthy?
I wish. No, I don't really wish. But no, I don't think so. I think at the end, I am. It might, right? I probably have fewer friends now than I did 20 years ago. Maybe that's part of it, right? Maybe it is. It's maybe a little less trustworthy, a little less wary, more wary of people. Or maybe that's just the way it is. Your friends just drop out partially because they disappoint you. But I try not to be cynical about people. I assume the best. But that, again, doesn't always work out. You have to realize it's not always going to work out. Yeah, people are the trickiest because they've got free will. They get to change and make their own decisions and do things that aren't expected. Oh, there's a question. Are we taking questions?
In social psychology, I learned that if you're too optimistic, you will overestimate these people's intentions. And then if you are too pessimistic, you'll think that the world is out to get you. So you want to remain neutral.
Well, I don't think neutral is right. What you want to be is objective. Objective means you want to look at the evidence and evaluate it the way it is. You want to evaluate it based on what it is. I don't think, being pessimistic, that is, you can always find a probability that things will go bad. If you overweight that probability beyond what's reasonable, life becomes unbearable. Because you're always seeing the doom and the gloom in the future, and it's always negative. It's always bad. It's very hard to do anything. It's very hard to engage with the world with that assumption. But you always want to be, but you can't be overly optimistic in the sense that you can't be divorced from reality. And says, "Oh, this is amazing. This is no." I mean, what do the facts actually tell you? So the goal in life should always be to be objective, to look at the fact, but to generally, I believe in having a positive orientation towards action, towards risk taking, towards doing things, because too many people in the world are passive in every aspect of your life, and in every aspect of your life, you should be active and entrepreneurial. And seek out new opportunities and new knowledge and new relationships and new things, because life's too short to not, embrace it and go full throttle and take the opportunities that you have.
In Atlas Shrugged, one of my favorite lines was basically how you mentioned, this conflicts of interest and how sometimes we just compromise, even though we know that there's a conflict of interest. And a like good line that was there is like, like there's no conflicts of interest among men and their business if they take their irrational point of view out of their
Yeah, so rational people don't have fundamental conflict of interest, right? So if you're rational, if you view it in the fullest context, if you understand the world, then rational people their interests don't clash. There's no conflict.
What's the role of friendship in someone's life?
Well, I think it's huge. Friends provide you with immense spiritual value. They provide you with a lot of visibility, psychological visibility into kind of projecting back to you your own values, which I think is very, very important for a healthy human being. They are a reflect. Having people who share your values, who share the kind of sense you have about the world and the kind of sense you have about life is crucial. It provides you fuel to keep going. It provides you energy. So friendship is crucially important, knowing that in the world there are people that you value, that the world is the kind of world that has people that you want to be with, that you want to hang out with, is an incredible added value to living and to life. So without friendship, it would be hard. It would be very hard to continue, particularly if you set yourself some ambitious goals in life and you're working hard. You need friends to partially to help you relax.
So when you mention job, right? For example, you're working, you have your job, but then you're not truly happy or motivated with your job. So it's how logic and emotions don't align, right? So say we can align both of them. Would that mean you would actually get to like your job? And in that case, if you do, where does personality comes in? Because if we talk about liking something or not liking, and if it's just based on experience, then how does personality aligns with all of that information?
Yeah, no, I think personality is really important. So part of it is figuring out what you like, right? Not just as an emotion, but I'm the kind of person, what kind of things do I like to do? And making that an important parameter in your rational assessment of different job opportunities. So I remember when I was, I knew I was going to be an engineer, right? When I went to college. And then the question is, what engineer did I want to be? And I knew from knowing myself that if I was going to be stuck behind a desk all day, I would hate it, right? That's not my personality. I need to be out there, do stuff. So I scanned all the different fields in engineering, and it looked like civil engineering would be the best because you actually interact with the world. You go out there into the field, you interact with people, right? There's a project, you see it built, you see something created in front of you. I said, okay, that fits my personality. Somebody else might say, no, I love the logical challenge of sitting in front of a computer and programming, which I can completely understand, right? That's a blast. I've done programming. It's a lot of fun, but I couldn't do it for long stretches of months or years. I don't like sitting behind a desk all day and doing that. So you have to take your personality. In other words, your values, what you enjoy, what you don't, not the momentary emotions you get out of it, but who you are and what kind of things you like into the equation when you're thinking about what kind of career you want to have.
So emotions and personality would be separate, right?
I'd say, I mean, they're obviously related, but part of your personality is your emotions. But I think the personality, if you've done a good job on yourself growing up, your personality is going to be fairly. It's going to change, but there's going to be a certain consistency to it. It's going to. Whereas emotions are going to fluctuate much more. At the end of the day, you create your personality by the choices you make throughout your life, and the more conscious you are about those choices, the more conscious you are about. There's certain things that you can't control, like your temperament, and I think I'm really restless, so I adapt to temperament that I can't change, right? Other things I think are changeable. A lot of our emotions are changeable if we work on it, but there's certain things that are not, and you have to take into account all the things that are changeable, the things that are not, and then make a decision about what makes sense for you, what kind of life you want to live.
So being logical would be not only with the world, but with yourself.
Oh, definitely.
Logical about who you are.
Yeah.
No,
So being rational is important, most important about yourself. And here, one of the things we don't teach kids, but we should, is how to introspect, how to look inside yourself, how to observe your own thinking, how to observe your own psychology, how to observe your own personality, how to observe your own emotions. We teach kids to repress their emotions. We're very good at repression, right? We teach kids how to look out. Maybe we don't teach anybody how to look inside. What is that?
how do you learn how to look inside yourself?
God, I'm not a psychologist, but there are ways to do that. Little exercises, like you could ask a kid at different ages. You can ask them, have them sit down, and this a parent should do. I'm not sure a school should do this. What are you feeling right now? Write it down. Right? Write down your feelings. Like, learn to identify your feelings without being judgmental about them. Would be a good thing. Or what are you thinking right now? Right? What is the process by which you're thinking right now? What is coming to your mind? And learn to observe that. Learn to observe the function of your conscious mind, of what's going on. So there are exercises that psychologists have worked on and have worked out that I think can be used for things like that. But again, it's not something that people do. It's not something that the culture thinks about a lot. We're obsessed about the world out there. We're less interested in the world inside ourselves. And look, and that makes sense, because for most of human history, the world out there was out to kill us, and we were barely surviving, right? Life expectancy was under 30, and you didn't survive for very long. There was not a lot of time when you were a subsistence farmer to do a lot of introspection, right? So to introspect, to think about your feelings and think about the processes of your mind, that is a luxury of wealth. And human beings have only been wealthy, relatively speaking, for 200 years. Before that, we were all dirt poor and barely surviving. But that's what we should be doing today.
One of the things that has helped me, like I used to listen to music when I would walk.
Yeah.
So I stopped doing that. Like I used to wear like headphones, and I mean, everyone, I think, pretty much, especially like youth, is just wearing headphones, AirPods, headphones, whatever, right? And I think that kills that ability or that time that you have for yourself to think. Because maybe you're in a bus, maybe you're walking, but having that time just to think for yourself, not having any music playing, no distractions, nothing, just observing. I think that's one way.
I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I also think the music you hear when you're on the thing sucks and is probably destructive to your mind as well. I'm not kidding. I'm serious. I think most popular music is probably not healthy for you. So you've got these headphones on, and the boom, 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 boom can be good for you. There's nothing good that can come out of that interaction. I do think that having time to think,
Right.
to just ponder, to let the thoughts roll, is really, really crucial. And what we look for today is distractions, whether it's our phones, or whether it's headphones, or whether it's just the constant noise that is out there. We have very little time to actually do thinking.
Right.
And thinking about our own thinking, right? Not just thinking about what's out there, but also thinking about what's in here, or to plan for the future, to think about the future, and to imagine the future. Those are all things you need time, and you need kind of freedom from stimuli in order to do. And again, your generation, more than any so far, it is just lives with constant stimuli.
Right.
It's either music through the headphones, or video on the iPhone, or social media or text or something, always constantly engaging you. There's almost no time when you're just not doing anything except just thinking. And that's a tragedy.
Yes, it's like that constant search for
Instant gratification.
and to not think.
Into nothing, to not spend time with yourself. Maybe that's because yourself is anxiety creating. I don't know. But it suddenly leads to the fact that people are not by themselves much, and that's not healthy. It's good to be by yourself. It's good to learn how to do stuff by yourself and to just be able to just think about interesting things. Let your mind go.
It's like once a person does not have a sense of a good sense of self esteem, they join tribes or they avoid being by themselves, or you're even thinking because like something happens within them, like they need that search of distraction, and sometimes that could be attributed to like, let's say like they don't really feel like they're good at anything, so like lack of competence, so like they seek substitutes such as like being charming or finding a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah, there are a million ways in which people find to distract themselves from their own deficiencies. Millions of ways, being a playboy, being enamored with material stuff, being constantly with earphones or whatever. Lots and lots of different ways to distract them from the work, in a sense that's required to actually live and to actually do the thinking necessary in order to live. And to get to know yourself, right? And that's kind of self-knowledge also requires the introspection, the work, the thought. And we just don't live in a culture that emphasizes or puts any weight on that. And we live in a very much an instant gratification, in constant stimulation, culture.
So if you're there right now, like what can you do to regain that back, like that side of yourself? Like, is it just like, no, you take your phone?
I'd say stop. Stop the stimuli. Stop stimulating yourself constantly. Go for a walk without anything. Just go walk and see where your mind takes you. Try to guide that, right? When you're walking, try to think about something interesting. I think some of the most productive time I've had is just walking without, headphones, without anything. And just thinking about the world, my life, what I want to do, what my values are, who I want to, who you want to date, what is your career, what do you want to do after college? Imagining that, thinking that through, spending real time doing that is, I think, incredibly valuable. And I think we rush through life in a way because of all the stimuli. There's a certain rush through life where we never really have the opportunity to really think it through, test in our mind different alternatives, see what we think of them. So guide your thinking. It's not let go in a sense of just let stream of consciousness happen, but try to guide your thinking and try to discover more about who you are, what your values are. Do you like those values? Do you like who you are? Right? That's important, because you might discover you don't like who you are, and then you've got to change. You want to like who you are. You want to like what your subconscious is feeding you. Right? So, but that is, again, I believe we have a lot more control over who we are than what the world out there thinks. Or, most of the world out there thinks we're either creature of our environment or creatures of genetics. And I think we're creatures of ourselves, that we create who we are, and it's choices we make, it's decisions we make. And we can guide that, we can control that, and we need to take the reins of that, right? You need to take I think Ayn Rand has something about, you take the reins of your soul. You need to build your soul, right? You need to build it. You create it. But if you don't, then it's just any garbage that comes in from anywhere, from TikTok or from whatever, just gets embedded there, and you have no control over it. It becomes a mishmash, and most people are unhappy and have these conflicts between their explicit ideas and their emotions, because they don't know where their emotions are coming from. They don't know where their evaluations are coming from, because they brought them in secondhand from the tribe or from the stimuli that they've just mindlessly absorbed.
You might find this interesting. So we were starting a company, and we were trying to figure out, like sometimes it's useful to know what people are like. So we were just, like, what are college students like? So we just went on YouTube and just looked up day in the life of students.
Yeah.
And it's actually very interesting because everyone's pretty much the same. And so like most of the time they spend the times by themselves, actually, which is interesting. But that time is either they wake up, you go to class, they come back home, they watch Netflix or something, or YouTube. They go to class again, they go eat.
There
And
must
then,
be a social media in between.
yeah, I mean, social media,
Right.
and so on and so forth. Listening to Spotify music on their walk, things like that. And then after everything is done, they usually go to the gym, which is interesting. Like every single person, gym. Why? Not really sure why. Like everyone just like going to the gym, and then they just come back, watch more Netflix, eat dinner, done.
I don't know. Would we have an obesity crisis if everybody really was going to the gym?
What? and it just seems like once people don't know what to do, they just, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym, like, yeah, whatever.
So no social life?
From those videos, that was the interesting thing, because
So it can be one of two things, right? Like it's either it's a very specific group of people who tend to make these videos, right? People who enjoy being by themselves. So it's like an observation bias, right? Like you're seeing a very
Probably, yeah.
particular subset of people.
Probably.
Um,
It takes a certain personality to make a video of yourself and put it up online.
right, exactly.
It's like the obsession people have with selfies,
Right.
right? I don't get it. Why would I want to take pictures of myself?
Right.
Constantly, everywhere, like from every angle possible. I don't think I've ever taken a selfie of my, it just doesn't strike me as, what's that?
you should do it right now.
I've done a few, but very, very, very few. But it's a sudden narcissism that people have. So I think somebody making a video of their own life is a particular type of person. So you definitely have selection bias.
Right.
Even if you ask people, like, most people feel like they feel lonely, or like they don't feel like they have friends. Which,
College.
yeah, it's a weird thing to understand. But if you go like online and you ask people, like, they don't feel like it's weird.
Yeah.
Because
Technology.
yeah, who knows? Yeah, but
Because how you interact through social media, it's a different environment than interacting with people face to face. And we have more practice online now than in face to face. So of course it's going to be.
Is this also, you think, a post-COVID phenomenon?
I
What do you
think
think
it's
goes
part
on?
of the reason, for sure.
Yeah.
Like-
Because people for a couple of years were not allowed, supposedly, to interact with one another.
I mean, who knows? I mean, you could say that, and that's easy. Like, oh, like, people like forgot how to like be with people, but like that's not convincing to me.
I think the bigger issue is, what do they do when they're alone? And my suspicion is that they're not really being alone in the sense of actually using their time to think or to
It's more
learn
doom
about
scrolling.
themselves.
Yeah.
And even music, right? Music at its best is unbelievably contemplative. It's emotionally stimulating, but it's also cognitively stimulating, and it's almost like meditation. It really is. It really consumes you emotionally when it's done right. But most popular music is just sugar. It's like you're just consuming little pieces of
It's a dopamine
sugar with
rush.
no nutrition. It gives you a little rush, and it adds nothing to your life, and but it provides you with constant stimulation that adds nothing, right? But sitting through a symphony, if you do it right, will actually nourish your soul, versus listening to the same beat, which all popular music seems to have basically the same beat, is just mind numbing, and it numbs your mind. It provides stimulation. It feels like you're doing something, but you're not doing anything. You're just numbing yourself. And I feel like most modern entertainment, or a lot of modern entertainment, is just a form of numbing. It's a way to avoid feeling very strongly, having strong emotions, and thinking very deeply about anything. So it's trying to dull your senses rather than enhance them.
What kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to classical music primarily.
Hmm.
Now, I don't listen to classical music if I'm walking or if I'm driving, because it requires too much of my mental effort. If I listen to it, then if I'm driving and I'm listening to classical music, then I'm either going to listen to classical music and then I'm going to be a really bad driver. Or if I'm driving, then I'm not really listening to music, so it's a waste, right? So if I'm driving or something like that, I'd listen to, I don't know, popular music I like from a long time ago, but it's not serious, right? And I often don't listen to music when I'm driving. Usually I don't.
So you said the science?
But my view is, if you're going to listen to music, do it seriously, right? It's an art, right? Like, you go to a museum to look at paintings, and you go to a concert hall to listen to music. If you listen to music at home, we have the capacity. It's great. You listen to your on headphones. It's great, but dedicate time to it. So, like, one of the best experiences, one of the things that I enjoy most is turn the lights off. Put on a Beethoven symphony, jack up the volume to 11, and just forget about everything. Just let yourself go with the music, or Rachmaninoff or Tchaikovsky or something like that. And that is a really spiritual experience. And it's stimulating, it's energizing, and it has the same benefits, I think, that Some people claim meditation provides them. But I think even more so because it does something significant to you. But that's because your focus now is on that. You're not getting sugar. You're not getting instant gratification. You're getting a prolonged experience. And I think that's what good music can do. That's what a really good movie will do for you. That's what a really good anything. This is why one of the things that your generation is missing out on is not reading, right? If you don't read novels and you don't get absorbed into that world of a novel and you don't get to experience that world and you don't experience the heroes and experience the struggles, you're missing out on an experience that teaches you a lot about yourself and how you respond to stuff. And so again, instant gratification, short, everything has to be very, very short, TikTok videos, rather than immersing yourself in an experience is something that really nourishes you and provides you with real values.
Would you think movies and books work the same?
No, they're very different. Movies are fundamentally visual. So visual stimulation is very different than a book. A book is much deeper. In a book, you can read about somebody's thoughts, and since the world is not provided to you, you have to use your imagination to see it. So an author describes a scene. You have to provide the visual. So you're stimulating completely different parts of your brain when you read a novel, using it differently. A book takes longer than a movie will, right? And you get to know people in far greater depth, right? The characters, you get to know them because in a movie you're only seeing them from the outside. In a book, you can see them from the inside as well. So I think they're very different experiences. Movies are shorter. They're great. I love movies. They're shorter, but even a movie, to get the full experience, it needs to be watched in a seating, and it needs to be good.
Do you think they can make movies like books where they say it in a different narration where it's like, and Joe actually
I don't think so. Partially because, if you want to read Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, it's going to take you 3 weeks, a month, 3 months, maybe. It takes you a long time. It's a big book. And you're in that world for a long time, and you're constantly thinking about it. You constantly, the characters are in your life, whether you like it or not. You kind of, if you really get sucked into a book, it's really hard to let go. I always hate ending a book right at the end because you those characters leave your life, and it's kind of sad. But so no, I don't think a movie can ever replace literature. I think they're two distinct forms of art. They have their place. They provide you with different values, different stimuli, different experiences. I wouldn't give up one for the other, right? Each one has its place, but I think that what's happening is reading requires more effort because it requires more time. It requires more focus, concentration. You're not just getting it delivered to you, right, immediately sensorially. You actually have to do the work. And unfortunately, I think we're seeing that with every generation, people are reading less, and they're expecting in a sense, they're expecting intravenously right into. They wanted the immediacy of a movie, or immediacy of TV, or immediacy of a visual stimulation or audio stimulation rather than actually doing the work.
What about a podcast? Sorry.
I don't think podcasts are not art, right? Podcasts are stories, but they're real life. They're nonfiction, and I don't think nonfiction will ever give you the experience of fiction. Art has a very, very unique role in human life, and you cannot do without it. And I know. Again, most people don't have art, right? Most people don't know anything about art. They don't experience it. Maybe they'll watch TV a little bit. They'll watch a few movies, and that's it. That'll be their satisfaction. But they'll never actually fully live because they'll never actually fully understand and embrace the role of art in human life. But you need art. You need, and the more of it, the better. And the more different types of it, the better. So you walk into my house, right? There's sculptures everywhere. The paintings on the wall, and it might be just posters, right? It doesn't matter to me if it's an original. It would be nice to have originals, but if something's beautiful, the value doesn't increase for me that much if it's an original. posters on the wall. Everything's aesthetically laid out because I believe in beauty. I think beauty is really, really important. And, I have a good stereo system for listening to music. I have a big television so I can watch movies the way they're supposed to be watched. I value these things. I think these are really, really important parts of life. And when people walk into my house, they go, whoa, this is weird, right? Because nobody has art on their walls. If people put stuff on the walls, it's usually stuff that's, non-committal, flowers, a mountain, a bouquet, something non-committal. You walk into my place, there are nudes on the wall, the sculptures. There's a statement there. There's a statement about life. There's a statement about my values. It's very personal, but it's bold and it's about living. And there's nothing wishy-washy about the stuff I have, right? Because I believe in living. And I think art is an important part. It reflects back to you. Art reflects back to you the things you cherish most. And because we're conceptual being, we deal with a lot of abstractions. Most of our life is very abstract, right? If I say hero, that's a very abstract concept. And there's no way to understand what I mean by hero without me giving you a bunch of examples of heroism. Where do those examples come from? They might come from real life sometimes, but most of them come from fiction. They come from art, right? I show you Michelangelo's David, you say, that's what you mean by a hero, right? There you go. And I can describe exactly what it is about Michelangelo, or Jean Valjean in Les Miserables, or Howard Rourke in The Fountainhead, right? These are models of what life can be. And they take these abstract notions of being a great human being, being happy, being heroic, being all these things, and they make a concrete out of it, and they present it to you in a concrete. And it's even more subtle than that. If I say, I think the universe is knowable, I think we see reality as it is. We can know reality. Science can teach us a lot about, can teach us about reality. Human reason can know reality. And, and then you see art where everything's blurry and nothing is exactly distinguishable. And it's sending exactly the opposite message. And I look at that art and I say, I don't know. I don't like that universe. That's not my universe. I want stuff that's sharp. I want something that's in focus. I want something that's knowable, right? It reflects back the knowability of reality. When I look at a great painting, it reflects back that idea of grandeur and knowability and human beings belonging and being able to shape reality, shape the world around them to suit their needs, which I think is what human beings do at their best. So art reflects all that back at you. And I think it's harder to identify what it is about music that does that. But there's something about music that is reflecting back to you, I think, and this is pure speculation, I think something about the complexity and our ability to think of logic and I think that a music pattern that's boom, 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 boom is reflecting back a very, very simplistic way of dealing with reality, of just one dimensionality versus a symphony, which gives you the entire, complexity and beauty and integration of good thinking.
Yeah, it's like when you go to a symphony, like you feel the stories, like you feel a story, and that story just becomes.
Well, you feel something. It's because most symphonies don't have a story, right? They're not telling a story. Like Beethoven's Fifth is not telling you a didactic story, but it's providing you with certain emotions, and it's providing you with a certain sense of the world, a feeling about the world. And that's what great music does. It's the one art form that goes directly to your emotions and stimulates it.
If you had to make a movie, what would it be about?
Oh God, I don't know. Because it maybe if I knew that, maybe I'd make a movie. Right? I'm not an artist. I can't
Come up with something.
I know it's not my thing. I'm not creative in that way.
Okay, fair enough.
What
I'm
message?
not an artist.
What message would you like to give?
Well, generally, I like heroic messages about the ability of human beings to thrive and be successful. I like particularly messages that emphasize the role of the mind in that thriving and that success, rather than just physical strength. I mean, action movies are great because they have heroes, but they're oriented towards the physical almost completely, right? It's all about physicality. It's not about. It's very rare that you have an action movie where the guy's thinking, or the gal is thinking, where they're actually solving problems. So I'd like stories where problems are being solved, where people are thinking, and where they're achieving heroic things. They're changing the world in dramatic ways.
Okay, tell me if I'm wrong. I think I found like a common thread. In psychology, there's a thing called automatic thinking, and then there's controlled thinking. Automatic is humans humans are basing their thoughts on stereotypes. They need an answer very quickly. And I think that's what we use to absorb instant gratification. We don't want to think, we just want to absorb. And then there's controlled, where you have to train your brain, put a little bit more energy to overcome the automatic thinking, and use your neocortex and stimulate other parts of your brain to actually think rationally. I think
Yes, I think one is thinking and one is not. So the automatic thinking is not thinking. It's just absorbing. It's just stimuli. It's Rand called this, being at the perceptual level. You're not actually abstracting. You're not going to the abstraction. You're just accepting the concretes that are flashing by and they're stimulating whatever they're stimulating. Whereas thinking actually requires effort. It requires slowing it down in a sense, and using reason, taking information that your senses provide, information you already know, integrating it, coming up with new ideas. That is actual work, and that doesn't happen quickly. Now you could train your automatic. You can take your conceptual thinking and automatize aspects of it, right? So when you drive, you don't, you guys don't drive manual shift, but in the old days when we drove manual shift, you don't think about switching gears.
Right.
You
It's
just
just
do it.
natural.
It's just kind of, and you're not thinking about, I should look here, I should look there. You just do it, right? But when you first drive, you don't. When you first drive, everything is like, am I looking? Where am I supposed to look? How do I? Because you're still training your mind, but at some point you automatize it and it's done. When you play tennis, I don't know. The first times you swing at a ball, you have to think about, oh, okay, am I swinging right? Is my hand right? If you're going to become any good at it, you better automatize it. It has to be automatized. So certain things can be automatized, but the actual thinking to be able to come up with any kind of achievement, any kind of move forward, if you want to improve your tennis, you have to think. You have to figure out what your problem is,
Right,
and improve the stroke until you automatize it, right? So to get to where you need to be, you always have to do the thinking. The thinking is the path to get there, even if ultimately a portion of it is automatized. And anytime you want to change it, you have to do the thinking again.
so. During those moments that people will just automatically react in a way, maybe based off their emotions, off of rationale that they've had in the past, right? In that moment, would you recommend them to be introspective? That is the moment that they could actually learn the most out of themselves.
Yeah, I think absolutely. When people are swept away by emotions, it's a good time to think about, why am I feeling this? Where does this come from? Is this consistent with how I want to live, with my values? And if it isn't, then why isn't it? Are my values wrong? Maybe are my emotions inappropriate? What's going on here? Don't reject your emotions. You should never say, oh, I'm bad because I had this emotion, right? The emotion is what it is. Or I'm not going to feel this. I'm going to suppress it. I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. That's the worst, right? So you don't want to repress it. You don't want to deny it. You don't want to condemn it. You want to recognize it, and then see how it integrates with your values and everything else, and then evaluate it. Is it appropriate or not? It might not be appropriate. It doesn't mean it's a bad emotion. It is what it is. But it might be inappropriate, and therefore you might have to work to undo it, to get rid of it.
And then write a new rationale and then automatize that.
Yes.
Something that has happened in our society is that we've lost ideals, like the sense of idealism. So, one, who are the best role models, if we have any, and then second, just tell us like why we should always strive, to be an idealist.
Well, again, I think part of the reason why we've lost ideals is because we become cynical about the world. Our moral code is, I think, in our politics and what we've learned has been corrupted. We're not sure what ideals should be. What should we strive towards? Everything's being knocked down that seemed to have been an ideal in the past. And we don't have a lot of role models. And that's, again, partially because our art has been corrupted. I think a lot of the role models come from art. They come from literature, and they come from movies, and they come from places like that. But most of those have been corrupted. I mean, when you ever see a hero on TV or in the movies that is not either a superhero, that is non-human, in other words, because you can't be a human and a hero, or is not flawed, right? An anti-hero. We got lots of anti-heroes. Generally, the movies since the 60s have been filled with anti-heroes. There's been this cynical, anti-idealistic trend in movies to do away. Or if they are heroic, they're just physically heroic, and there's no role of the mind. So I think our culture has kind of bred, in a sense, conditions us against idealism and against heroism, but it embeds us with cynicism. If you look at most of the TV shows that children watch, they're all cynical. They're all making fun of everything, right? If I think about The Simpsons, or all those cartoons, you guys know,
Barney? Nah.
Family Guy.
everything. I mean,
Sounds-
all of them are just tearing stuff down. What TV show out there, particularly for kids, is building stuff up, is actually creating ideals, is actually striving towards something positive?
Barney.
Yeah, I don't know what ball.
He's the purple dinosaur.
Oh, the purple dinosaur. God.
Bob the Builder.
I was thinking most. Yeah.
Quite literally.
Think about South Park. Think about Simpsons. Think about a lot of these shows.
Black Mirror.
Futurama.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know them because I've never watched
Horrible.
them.
For kids?
But some of them I know. And they were all about knocking stuff down. They were all about making fun of. And there's almost no idealism. There's no striving towards values. Because we live in a culture philosophically that's anti-values, anti-achievement, anti-success. We also live in a culture where you're told that you're basically determined by your genes. You're determined by your ethnic group. You're determined by your cultural context. You don't have control. We don't grant you agency. We grant the group agency, but not the individual agency. So ideals are out. What are you going to strive towards? You don't control it anyway. So you have to have the right kind of philosophy. You have the right view of man in order to strive for an ideal. And I'd say the role models, I mean, this is why one of the reasons, many reasons I love Ayn Rand so much, because she creates these amazing role models. She creates ideals, ideal women and men who you want to be like, and you want to strive to emulate. She provides you with a philosophy that basically says you can achieve and you need to achieve. Right? You're only going to get your self-esteem. You're only going to be happy if you achieve, if you take life seriously and you make the most of it and you do the most with what you have. Only then can you be truly happy, and only then can you have the kind of self-esteem that leads to happiness. So she takes life seriously, and taking life seriously is a form of idealism. I told you I like the Korean show, Mr. Sunshine. And it's a great example of a TV show that could never be made in the U.S. because there's not a cynical line in the entire show. It's truly idealistic. It has a heroine and a hero that are, wow. I mean, they're great. They have values. You might not agree with their values, and they don't agree with each other about their values. That's part of the conflict of the show, right? They have a conflict of values. But they take their values seriously. They take their life seriously. And it's that conflict between their values, two good people in conflict about certain values, that it makes for drama, but you emotionally get tied up in it, and you get a visualization, you get it in a story of what it means to take life and to take value seriously, and what such a life would mean. So I encourage you to watch it. They take, it has certain flaws in it, in my view, but it's about as good as a TV show will get. almost everything on American TV and I think European TV is either super dark. It's about, horrible murders and people doing bizarre things to one another and, detectives solving the problem, usually through luck, not really through, logic and deduction. Or it's cynical. Like there's a hero, but he's kind of funny and he undermines himself constantly and he's falling apart. Or the other characteristic in the world out there is that the good guy will be, there are a lot of movies like this, right? The good guy is boring, divorced, miserable, poor. The bad guy, happy, gets all the women, parties all the time, has a great time, right? Vice leads to joy. Virtue leads to suffering. And that's the kind of world we live in, where that is the belief. And how can you be idealistic if you believe that, right? So idealism leads to suffering, right? To be virtuous is suffering. But that's what our culture is about. And that's part of the horror in modern culture, is that it associates virtue with suffering. It associates goodness with unhappiness.
Did you see the movie Whiplash?
Yes.
What do you think about it?
It's excellent because in the movie Whiplash, there's a real dedication to values. There's a real dedication to achievement, to greatness, and it shows the kind of work ethic that is required to do that. Now, there's certain aspects of it that entail the brutality of the teacher to gain that. But in terms of the focus on excellence, the focus on achieving values, the focus on being the best that you can be at something, I think that's inspiring.
Do you think he the controversy sometimes is that, he broke up with a girlfriend. What do you think of that?
Well, it is true that there are periods in your life where if you want to really be the best at something, you have to be truly single-minded about it. And the girlfriend is a distraction.
What?
A girlfriend. Well, in your case, a boyfriend, but girlfriend could be a distraction. And there are periods in which you say, look, romance is out for now. Right now, this is my goal. This is all I'm doing. I'm going to be single-minded about it. It's not all my life, but in this right now, at this point in time, this is what I'm going to be doing. And, sex and romance, I don't have time for them right now, which is completely appropriate. And I think in a striving towards that kind of excellence, there is an element in the movie that suggests that, you can't really achieve both, right? Romance and excellence. And I don't think that's true. But there are periods where that is probably true, right? You just have to dig it. So, take Michael Phelps, right? The swimmer, right? Did he have time for a girlfriend? Probably not when he was training for the Olympics, right? This is all he did. He swam. It's all he did. All he thought about is what he ate. It was determined by how he performed in the pool. Everything was about the pool. And the periods in life where that is the case. Now, you don't want to be single-minded like that throughout your whole life, but there could be periods where that happens. I think the amazing thing about Whiplash is how it ends. That is, it ends on this incredible high note. All that hard work pays off. He achieves, I think, a sense of satisfaction, a sense of happiness in that moment where he's playing like maybe nobody else has ever played before, like nobody could have imagined him playing. He plays the best ability that he can play. That you can sense in the movie, both the teacher and the student are both elated in a way that I think most people will never experience in their lives, because they'll never be that good at anything in their life, right? It doesn't mean you can't. It just means most people just don't go through the effort to achieve that.
An argument is often made about idealism and rationality, like they're often seen on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like you cannot be too idealistic about the world, right? Like you need to see the world for what it is. Or some will argue if you're not dreaming big, you'll never get to that world, right? Like in some ways you need to be idealistic but also rational. So how do you bridge that gap?
I don't think there's a gap. I think it's a false view of idealism. See, it's a false view of idealism that comes from Plato. And that is an idea that the ideal is something that's in a different dimension, right? Plato has this construct of the world where there's a world of ideals, right? There's a world of the perfect, but it's in a different dimension. You can never reach it. It's the philosopher king can observe it, but nobody ever sees it. Certainly mere mortals like us can't really access the world of ideal. But that's a false conception of the ideal. The ideal is the possible. The ideal is the rational, right? So it's taking what we know about the world and doing the best with what's given to us by reality. It's not denying reality. See, idealism, again, in the Platonic sense, is a negation of the real world. It's a negation of reality, and therefore they create this dichotomy of the ideal versus the rational. And I'm saying, no, the ideal is the rational. The rational is the ideal, right? So it's being a hero, not a superhero, because superheroes don't exist. It's being a hero. That is understanding what heroism means in your life, in this world, not in some other planet, not in some other universe, not in another dimension, but in this world, and being the best human being you can be in this world, being a heroic human being in this world. So idealism and rationality go hand in hand. Idealism that's divorced from rationality, often leads to tragedy, often leads to horror. People striving towards non-rational utopias leads to some of the greatest horrors of humankind, right? Whether it's communism or whether it's fascism or whether it's Islamism, or there are a lot of these horrific ideals that are in another dimension that lead people to do horrible things in this world. But you want the integration of rationality, this world, facts, with what is the best that we can make this world into.
Yeah, like just today in the dining hall, I was talking to this guy, and he was telling me that he like life is suffering, and having goals and desires, it's suffering, and like doing things that you want to do, it's is risky or irrational. And I was like, look, it's not. And then like doing what you want to do is the most rational thing you can do. Like it's not a thing.
But again, it depends what you want to do.
Like what you love, like what you.
Yeah, but even you love. Some people love the wrong things, right?
Sure.
So it all has to be rational. It has to be based on reality. It has to be based on what is rationally, scientifically going to make your life better. But it's look, we live in a culture and have lived almost forever in a culture that believes that suffering is noble, that suffering is idealism. That you can't be an ideal unless you're suffering, right?
Nietzsche slave master morality.
Well, Nietzsche wants to abandon morality because the good thing about Nietzsche is he recognizes that Christian morality is deadly. Christian morality is bad for you. It's a morality of suffering. It's a morality of defeat. It's a morality of struggle. It's a morality that leads to death and suffering. But instead of coming up with a better morality, coming up with a moral code that can guide human life towards happiness, Nietzsche rejects morality. He does away with it and creates an Ubermensch, a superhuman being who doesn't have to deal with morality, can do anything and lets his will, his emotions, unleashes them. That's all wrong, right? That's all wrong, except for the part of recognizing that it's true that Christian morality is very harmful to human life. And not just Christian morality, most conventional morality is a morality that leads you to this view of suffering. I mean, this is what we're trained. I often tell people, you go to a museum and you look at paintings of saints, they're not happy. They're not like having a good time. They're all like got arrows sticking in them. They're all on the verge of dying. They're all suffering. Suffering is the essence of virtue in our culture, and that's sick. There's something really wrong with our culture.
What advice you have for your own people about how to take their life seriously and something they can do, so they can do something that they're proud of, or what advice should they ignore?
Well, I mean, I think the most important advice I can give to people is to rethink their moral code, rethink they focus on suffering and they focus on other people and they focus on satisfying other people, and really devote real effort and time to thinking rationally about what's good for themselves and what's good for them, and how they can make their lives the best life that they can have over the long run. How can they achieve great things with the life that they have using their mind? The most important part of this is use reason, use your mind, and take take your mind and take its conclusion seriously, and take reality seriously.
I was thinking of a communal model of like how you would speak to yourself, and it's like you have your rational voice, and you should continue. You have your rational voice, and then you have your ideal voice, and you may have your inappropriate voice. Like you shouldn't, because you have all these conversations within yourself. But if you make
I
the
don't see it like that. I mean, again, I don't see a conflict between the ideal and the rational.
they
Uh,
conversate.
I don't think so, because I think that to me they're the same voice. To be rational is to be an idealist, right? It's what am I rational for, right? I don't believe in fantasy. I don't believe in science fiction. In creating imaginary worlds, idealistic imaginary worlds. I deal with. I want to deal with this world, with reality, with facts, and then I want to take those facts and I want to try to shape the world and make it better, make my life better within it. And that's my ideal. My ideal is my life within this world, not an imaginary world. So the conversation is not between reality and non-reality. The conversation is within reality. How do I make the world the best that I can make it for me? How do I shape my environment to make it good for my life? And how do I shape my own soul, my own life, my own experience of life in the best way possible?
But those different characteristics, they would be ideal or rational. They would be fed by your experiences. If you take your experience of life seriously, you would have multiple conversations within yourself because life is very complex.
I don't think life is as complex as we try to make it out. I don't view it. I don't have conversations within myself. I have a conversation, basically with myself, but I don't have different voices in my head arguing different things. It doesn't. I mean, my consciousness doesn't work that way. And I try to look at reality and integrate the facts as I know them. I try to integrate them around certain principles that guide my life. And I try to stick to those principles, guided by an idea of living the best life that I can live, and doing it rationally, doing it independently, doing it honestly, being productive, and kind of the fundamental virtues I think one needs in order to live a good life.
At the end of our shows, we have a section called Overrated or Underrated. So we ask you a question or a statement, and you tell us what you think. The first one, billionaires, overrated or underrated?
Underrated. Oh, you want me to explain?
Just quickly.
Yeah, billionaires are like I mean, in a free market, a lot of the billionaires, the people who make the modern world. They're the people who shape the world in which we live for the better. The reason they're billionaires is because lots of people want to trade with them, because lots of people want the stuff that they produce, the stuff that they create. Billionaires are the good guys in this world.
Next one, Ben Shapiro.
God. Well, it depends by whom, right? He's underrated by some and overrated by others. Yeah, look, Ben Shapiro's super bright, super smart. He's really quick. You want Ben Shapiro on your side in a live debate, because his mind is like this, and he comes up with great examples, and he's very, very sharp. He's also wrong on a bunch of stuff, but it's a mixture of some good and some bad. Probably overall, the bad outweighs the good, primarily because he's just too religious for what I can handle.
Would you ever debate him or consider?
Sure, I'd love to debate Ben Shapiro. Yeah, that would be fun. I've done a show, so he's interviewed me.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And I'd love to debate him. Anytime he wants to debate, he knows I'll take it. I'll take him on. So, he knows I'm willing to debate him. But he has no incentive to debate me. Not because, I'm that good, but primarily because he's got like a audience that's, a million times bigger than mine. So he's not gonna get any value from debating me. I would get a huge value from debating him, because I'd get massive exposure to an audience I don't typically have.
Disney, overrated or underrated?
Depends when. It used to be underrated. Now it's probably overrated. So it used to produce great movies and some of the best entertainments and movies you could find. So the animated movies, whether from the very distant past or even from the 80s and 90s, which I know for you is a very distant past, but for me, it's not that long ago. But the stuff more recent is very mixed. Some stuff's good. Sometimes a lot of the stuff they produce is not very good. But Disney goes through these periods. So right now, it's probably overrated.
Do you still follow them? Like
What's that?
what they make, do you still follow it?
I like movies. I pretty much follow everything.
Uh-huh.
I don't follow them very closely because they haven't made anything super interesting. I think the last Disney movie I watched was Encanto, which people told me was really, really good. I thought it was okay, but I wasn't that excited about it. It doesn't compare to the classics. I mean, they have some really amazing movies in their past, right?
Star Wars.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Oh, definitely.
Why is that?
Because it's not that interesting. Sorry, guys. I know. This is I'm touching on religion. Yeah. It's superficial. There's no sense of what the good guys are fighting for. We know that the bad guys are bad and they're evil. There's very little depth in it. It's like a shallow Western. But a lot of special effects, and the special effects, looking back particularly, are not that great. The best thing Star Wars has done was this latest show that they did.
Mandalorian?
No, after the Mandalorian.
Andor?
Andor is the best thing I've seen from Star Wars because it actually had a character that evolves through the show, grows. You understand his motivations. It's not, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys are good guys, therefore they attack the bad guys. Here is a real evolution of this guy and his approach and his views. So I thought Andor was excellent, but pretty much everything else from Star Wars has been mediocre.
Coldplay.
You're just going out.
Overrated or underrated?
Oh, Coldplay. Well, I think all popular music overrated. I mean, in the genre of popular music, Coldplay is among the best, right, of the last 20 years, probably one of the best bands of the last 20 years. But I just can't get excited about anything in popular music from the last 20 years.
How many streaming?
What's that?
What's it called? Streaming, what's it called? Like Hulu, Netflix, streaming website? No.
Services.
Yeah, streaming services do you have downloaded if you have movies so much?
Yeah, I think they're underrated. I think they're fantastic. I mean, the very fact that I have in front of me a library of hundreds of movies, thousands of movies and thousands of TV shows from all over the world. I can download a show from Egypt or from I was just watching a British show on the flight here, and I can watch them on planes. I can watch them anywhere in the world, anytime, at a marginal cost of zero. A monthly fee that gives me access to these thousands. Yeah, I mean, that's just amazing. I love that stuff. Technology is always underrated. Almost every technology out there. But streaming service is amazing.
One of my professors actually told me that old brains are navigating new technology. And that's why we have like the depression of teenagers that were foreign into the technology, just like right when they entered life, technology was present in their life. That's why depression has been so high.
I doubt that's true. So we were told when I was growing up, that the reason kids were depressed when I was growing up is because of television. And generation before me were told that the reason kids were depressed growing up was because of radio. Old people don't like technology, and they always think it ruins young people's lives, whereas I think old people ruin young people's lives. I think it's the ideas that old people teach you that are ruining your lives. So, if you're taught from a very young age that the world is going to end, that, every time you use a plastic bottle, you're destroying the world and you're about to kill it and everything on it, then it's pretty depressing. Life sucks, right? And you have grown up, your generation more than any other generation has grown up with the idea that catastrophe is just around the corner. The world is going to end tomorrow, and it's going to end because of what you do. You're causing it. That is the most depressing thing I can think that old people do to young people. They blame you and they tell you have no future. You have no future economically. The economy is going to collapse. You have no future environmentally. The world is going to heat up and we're all going to die. You have no future geopolitically. We're all going to, World War III is going to happen any day now. We're told now, right? It's just going to break out any day now. It's super depressing. unless you can step back from it and say, yeah, most of this is bullshit.
And then the last one, we have Einstein right here. So Einstein, overrated or underrated?
Oh God. Yeah, how to say that Einstein is overrated given his genius, and given his contribution to physics, but I don't think he's underrated either. I think he's probably, gains the right respect. My guess is that he's overrated by people who don't really understand what his genius is.
Right.
Right.
Like
So
young tuition.
in the culture out there, 99% of people have no clue what Einstein did. Right. And yet they think they
He's a
think
genius.
they know him.
Yeah.
Right. They read a book like Isaacson or something like that, and they think they know him. And in that sense, he's overrated. Yeah, but he was indeed a scientific genius. Again, I'm probably exaggerating because I studied theory of relativity. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And when I studied it, my professor would tell me there are like 3 people in the entire world that understand actually theory of relativity. So hopefully they're right. I'm assuming they are, but hopefully they're right. But there are only like a handful of people in the whole world who understand this stuff.
All right. Well, thank you for coming, part 1.
With pleasure.
And let's go to the talk.
Let's go to part 2.
All right.